Hey y'all, howdy, welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandra Broadwell, and today we're gonna do something a little bit different. I wanna share how to van life with a cat. As many of you who follow this channel know, I have been out on the road living in the van with my husband and my cat since August of 2023, so about 8 months now, and it's been going really, really well. But I had a lot of anxiety about bringing my cat out into van life before this all started, and I'm sure if you're thinking about it, you do too. So I just want to answer a lot of the questions that I had and how we've solved a lot of those issues, and just chat through some things that have worked and some things that haven't and how we've adjusted along the way. Also, just some questions that we've gotten from people as we've been out and they've seen us with our cat. Hopefully I can answer all your questions in this video, but if not, please feel free to comment below with anything that I didn't get to, and I would be happy to answer your questions down in the comments. So to start off, let's talk about prepping your cat. We bought a kitten about 4 years ago in late 2019. At the time, we knew that we wanted to be able to take her on adventures, and so we started harness training her from a very young age. And so we bought a harness, which I believe is called Kitty Holster. That wasn't the brand that we originally started with, actually, but Kitty Holster is my favorite. It velcros around the front and around the bottom, and it's thick enough that we've actually been able to sew some other trackers and things onto it. And one of our complaints about that one is that it's a little thick. We like some of the ones that are just straps around the cat, but every single one of those that we've tried, she's been able to sneak or squeeze out of, versus the heavy duty-er Velcro ones seem to hold on really well and she's not able to wriggle free. And just the fact that we've been able to sew things to it and it's held up really, really well over these months, despite the fact that she's rolled around and climbed on at things and everything, has been really great. So how to harness train your cat. Most people I know who have a cat and they say they tried to get their cat to wear a harness, they just put it on and their cat immediately flopped over and just cried. And I call this the immobilizing flop stage. It's very common. And basically how we handled this was we just put her in her harness for about 10 minutes a day. We didn't try to put her on her leash right away. We didn't try to take her outside. We just put the harness on her in the apartment, and she would flop over and cry a little bit and, wiggle around and act like she couldn't move. And then, as the days went on, she finally stopped crying so much and started getting up and walking around. And then when we actually saw her jumping up onto furniture while wearing the harness, we knew that her level of comfort was good enough that we were ready to introduce a leash to the situation. So step 2 is the leash. We just use kind of a standard retractable leash. And then we just have a carabiner on the end of it so that if we want to connect her to the van or something so she can't run away, there's plenty of connection points so she can still stretch around and move, but she is safe. We tried taking our cat on several walks back when we lived in our neighborhood. She didn't really like that. She never wanted to go where we wanted to go, and she just kind of wanted to stop and sit in the grass and roll around and munch on things. And that's fine, honestly. What we would end up doing is we bought a cat backpack, and I've seen lots of different cat backpacks. We use this one from Jez Pet, and I love this one. I don't think I would ever use another one. It has a super solid bottom so that I can wear it, and when she's inside, she has a window at the top, a window in the front, and then she has these 2 small windows so that she can see out the sides as well. It also has built-in pockets. And a lot of times when we're in the van, we'll just leave this part open. It Velcros, so we can roll up that and Velcro it. And then she'll often just sit in here for comfort. And so the way we introduced the backpack was we just started leaving it open, sitting around the apartment. And, we would put her inside it and just let her sit there. So we did that for a long time before we actually tried to carry her anywhere in the backpack. And so she had a pretty good level of comfort with this. Now she loves this thing. She sits in it a lot of times, even when it's inside the van. And if we go anywhere, if we take her to a friend's house or to the vet, this is always what we use instead of a cat carrier, because she feels so comfy in here and she's very safe. And I like this better. I've seen the ones that have the little spaceport cat windows, like a bubble. And I think those are cute, but I worry about how hard they are because, if you're walking, the cat is bouncing around a little bit. I don't want her to hit her face on something hard. So the fact that this is all soft inside, but still sturdy enough to support her is really one of the things that I love about it. It also has a connection point in here. So when she's wearing her harness, we can connect her to the backpack itself, and so she can't jump out of the backpack if we don't want her to. And then a lot of times what we'll do when we're walking, we'll have the front zipped up like this, and then we'll have her connected to the connection point inside, and we'll just leave the top open like this. And so then she can kind of stand up, and she'll often place her paws on our shoulders, and she'll get to poke her head out and look around without having to look through the screen, and she really likes that. So yeah, highly recommend the Jez Pet backpack. I'll try to remember to link it below. But so eventually what we would do is we had a park within walking distance of our house. And so we would put on her harness, put her in her backpack, and then we would walk her to the park. And then once we were at the park, we would let her out of the backpack on the leash, and we would just walk wherever she wanted to go within the park. And so then she got a pretty good idea of like walking around on the leash, and we didn't have to worry about her on the sidewalks to get to the park, like running into dogs or running out into traffic or anything like that. So that worked out really well for us. We never were able to get her to walk where we wanted to walk in the city while we were on leash. There's just, she's a little bit scared of humans and dogs and traffic and loud noises. So that just wasn't something she was ever going to do, and that's fine. So that's harness training, leash training, and backpack training. The next thing is car training, right? So a lot of cats don't like riding in cars. She was the same way when she was a kitten. We would take her basically just to the vet and back, which I think is what most people do. But we just started taking her to other places with us. Like if I went to visit my parents for the weekend and was going to spend the night, I would take her there, which was about a 2-hour drive. You know, even if you're not going anywhere far away, if you just want to like, even if you just take your cat with you to, when you go to pick up your takeout order somewhere, I think that kind of stuff can really be helpful. Also, an important part of car training, I think, is having a passenger with you when you take your cat in the car, because you don't want to be in a situation where she's jumping up on the dash in front of the driver, or even worse, getting in behind the gas and brake pedals or anything like that. So you don't want to have to be trying to manage the cat while you're driving. And so if you have a passenger or friend that you can take with you that can help train the cat to stay on the passenger side of the vehicle, or just keep the cat in their lap or something like that, then that's great. That works out really well for me and my husband because we're a pair. If you're doing it on your own, that might be a little harder to figure out. But the dash and the passenger's lap are her two favorite places to sit while we're driving. Third would definitely be sitting in the backpack on the floor. And then, you know, before you bring your cat out on the road, make sure that they're up to date on all their vaccinations. We stocked up on all of her flea and tick medicine. And then another thing to make sure you're doing frequently with your cat out on the road is chances are they're probably going to be catching mice and lizards and things like that and eating some of them. So make sure that you're frequently deworming your cat. I believe that's a once every 3 months thing that we do with her. So that's kind of all the prep. Like I said, our cat was about 3 years old when we actually moved into the van, maybe 3 or 4. We lived with her just in a normal apartment kind of lifestyle for a long time with her before we were ready to move into the van. One of the things that we were really worried about was free roaming. We wanted to be able to trust her to explore camping spots on her own without always having to be on the leash, because managing a cat on a leash is obviously not what you want to be doing 24/7. They're constantly wrapping themselves around things and getting stuck, and they can't go as far as they want. You know, the experience is just a lot better if she can free roam, but we were really worried about how to get to that point. We weren't sure we could trust her to come back or to not go too far, things like that. So free roaming is something that we definitely worked up to. Before we moved into the van, we were out in our driveway a lot, building our van and doing a lot of that kind of maintenance. And so every time that we were out there, we tried to bring her out into the driveway with us, and we never let her free roam within the city. We don't trust her around cars. She's not very smart in that way. She doesn't really know to avoid cars. So every time that she was outside in our yard, we were watching her very closely and didn't let her leave the yard. Once we got out on the road, you know, we started out with a leash, and we would just follow her everywhere. And we tried to do kind of like we did out in the driveway, where we kept a really close eye on her, and we just sort of followed her around wherever she decided to go. And if she got too far away, we would turn her around and bring her back, or, you know, sometimes we'd put the leash back on her and make her come back to the van. And eventually she just got to the point where we just trusted her more and more. I don't really have like a secret ingredient for like what the recipe was that got us from point A to point B, but we just found that we trusted her as time went on, and she always does come back to the van. One of the things that has really eased our peace of mind about her free roaming is having a tracker on her. And we've tried 3 different methods now. I believe we've settled on one that works really, really well. But first, we tried a GPS tracker. It was specifically made for pets, but unfortunately, the GPS tracker, I think, is for if you actually lose your pet. You know, it will get you within a close range, but it doesn't actually pinpoint where your pet is. It's just not quite accurate enough down to the micro level. And, you know, sometimes you can be really close to your pet, but if they don't come when you call, or if they decide to hunker down and hide because they think it's a game, you know, they could be 2 feet away from you just behind a bush, but the GPS tracker won't tell you that they're that close. And so that didn't work for us. The next method we tried was Bluetooth tracker. We use the company Tile. If a lot of people have Tile that they keep on like their keys or whatever that you might lose frequently, and then you can use your phone to ping it and it will chirp, it will make a little song. And that worked really, really well in open areas. But Bluetooth, I think, has a fairly short range, and it doesn't work really well when it's not line of sight. And so if there's like a lot of really thick plants, if you're in a forest or lots of dense shrubs around, it just couldn't find her. It was great in like open areas or desert-y areas, kind of like this. And we used it so often that she got to learn that when the tracker on her back started to sing, she would actually come running back to us, which was so great. We really, really loved that. But eventually we were just in so many areas where it didn't work well that we were like, we've got to get something else. So our most recent and hopefully final solution is we are now using I believe it's a radio telemetry tracker, which was by far the most expensive option. I believe it was like $230. So definitely more than probably a lot of people's budgets. If you do want just like the budget option, I would highly recommend the Bluetooth Tile, but just know that it's not going to work in every situation. But the radio tracker that we're using is called Marco Polo. I'll show you the part of it that we attach to her harness in the future. She's out running around right now, but later in the video, I'll show off what that looks like. But our portion of it looks like this. It kind of reminds me of like the Ghostbusters thing, but it opens like this, and then we just hit the power button and you hold it level. It takes a minute to locate her, and then it pings and it gives you a percentage based on how close she is. So like if it says 92% when it comes on, that means she's really close. But not only does it tell you how close she is, it points an arrow whichever direction, as long as you're holding it flat. It points the direction that you should go to find her. And if it's like all the way down at 30%, then she's probably quite far away, but it will take us literally to exactly the point that she is. So this has been really amazing. It has worked so much better than we even dreamed. Again, it works even in that situation where you're like, okay, it says she's really close, and you're like standing next to the bush that she's hiding behind, and it's pointing, and then you're like, oh, of course she's right there. So absolutely love this thing. The one thing that I will say I'm a little bummed about is that it doesn't have a part on her that will chirp or make a sound, which is something that we grew to really like about the Bluetooth tracker, because she became trained to come back when her little tile sang, and this doesn't make any sound on her end. This thing can beep to let you know how close you're getting. It beeps more frequently as you get closer, and you could also turn off that feature if you don't want it. But I do miss her running back to us all excited when the little chirp came, but this is way more accurate at actually helping us find her in a lot of different environments. So highly recommend Marco Polo. So that's kind of it for the prepping your cat phase of the video and tracking. I think all of that is just so important. I would not have my cat out here without a tracker, definitely, which means that she knows when she's going outside, she has to have her harness on, because her harness is what her tracker is attached to. Other accessories that we have for her, besides just like the harness, the leash, the tracker, and the backpack, we also use, this is a little light that we will attach to her. It can change colors. It's hard to see in this lighting out here. Certain colors are brighter than others, so we almost always have it set to the green color, because it's a bit, at least in my mind, it's a bit easier to see than some of the other ones. So we attach this to her harness if it's starting to get dark at all, or if it's really shady or something, anytime we think this will help. This is called Night Eyes, I believe. I think it's for dogs it's a little bit bulky, and I don't like that the light's only on one side and not on the other because the battery is on this one. So we could definitely find a better light, but I do think having a light on her harness is great for kind of dusky situations. We also, of course, have a bed for her in the van. One other cat accessory that we tried that didn't really work out was we saw someone who was van lifing with their cat had these like pop-up tents that they would set out when they wanted their cats to stay nearby and not have to worry about their safety. And we tried that with Pogi, and she didn't like them. She just kind of cried the whole time she was inside of the tent. And we tried it multiple times in multiple different ways, and finally just decided the tent wasn't for her. But I know plenty of people who do use the little pop-up tents for their cats, and it seems to work really great. So just another instance of you're gonna have to, you know, trial and error your way to whatever's gonna work for your cat. And the final accessory that I will recommend highly is a portable vacuum to have in your van, because you know, cats are messy. At least my cat is a messy eater. And then on top of that, you know, the litter always sticks to their feet when they come out of the litter box. So we have a portable vacuum because there's so many compartments in the van where just like a small broom and a dustpan like can't reach into all the little crevices and crannies, but the portable vacuum cleaner really gets into all those nooks and really helps me keep the van a lot cleaner. So absolutely recommend having a portable vacuum. I'll show ours off. It's the Dewalt electric vacuum, which I absolutely love. So bringing up the light also though brings up some of the dangers that we worry about, mostly predators. And so things like birds of prey, eagles, hawks, owls, coyotes are a big concern because coyotes live in most parts of the United States. Also in a lot of areas that we've gone camping, mountain lions and things like that. So there's a lot of predators that will prey on a cat, and primarily the major thing that we try to keep a mind towards is checking in on where she is every 20 minutes or so, no matter what we're doing, just to make sure that we have some idea of where she is, and then at the same time not letting her out at night. If we happen to be out at night, like sitting around a campfire, and we want her there with us, then she's on the leash and we're holding the leash, or it's attached to the van where she can go in and out, but she can't leave the area. Basically, we just don't let her out at night. And if she is for some reason out at night because she has her light on and she's attached to us and can't go very far, just because that's when coyotes and things are going to be out looking for a good snack. You know, we can't guarantee her safety, and that's something that or at least that I have tried to come to terms with, is there's no guarantee that she'll be safe all of the time, or that we can prevent anything bad from happening to her. But she is living her best life, and I know that she wouldn't choose to do things any differently. So I'm so glad we have her out on this journey with us. So that kind of covers all of the accessories for her. So now we need to talk about van adjustments that you'll need to make to prep your van for your cat. So Litterbox, I know this is one that probably a lot of people have questions about. So I will cut to some video showing off a compartment that we built, but basically we built out our van custom. And so we were able to make a compartment specifically for the litter box. And it took us a while to find a litter box that we wanted that would fit in the compartment that we built. So that was a little bit of a hassle, but not too big of a deal. Like I said, our cat's messy. You know, when it gets out of the litter box, it kind of flings litter. So the vacuum, again, is very important. So once we built the compartment where the litter box was going to be, then we put in a kitty door so that she would enter that compartment and it wouldn't just be like an open hole in the van where smell could come out. The other thing that we did that I think was really clever and really crucial was we actually drilled a hole in the floor of the van and inserted a computer fan. That fan is always on, sucking air out of that compartment and into the outside. So it is constantly venting to the outside, sucking out any smell that might be produced in that compartment. My third tip for the litter box area is we use a brand of cat litter called Pretty Litter. And I know it's a little bit pricey, but it comes in like 1 month size bags, I believe, or possibly even 2 month bags. I've been a customer of Pretty Litter for many, many years. I've tried out lots of other different cat litters, and honestly, this one I think is the one that is the most low smell. My big knock against Pretty Litter is that it's silicate based, and so that's not super environmentally friendly, but reducing the smell is really, really important. important when you live in a small van. And also pretty litter, the reason that it kind of became popular is because if your cat is sick or has any sort of internal problems, the color of the litter changes. And so actually that was how we found out earlier this year while we were on the road that our cat had a UTI because her litter was changing color. She obviously was acting very distressed, and we ended up taking her to a vet clinic in like Alabama where we were at the time and got her some medication and everything. And so that's something that I didn't really consider too hard before we hit the road about emergency medical situations. But there are vets in most towns, and almost any vet will find a way to squeeze in your pet if they're having some sort of emergency situation. So we had a really great experience at the vet that we went to in Alabama at the time, and she's all better. But anyway, yeah, Pretty Litter I recommend for both of those reasons. Very low smell and will alert you to potential medical issues that your cat is having. We also built a special kind of food and water holder for her little bowls that wouldn't slide around while we were driving. When we were building the van, we built a specific shelf at the exact height of the window so that she would have somewhere to lay and look out the window at all times, because the dash gets so hot. And so even though she can go up there anytime she wants, we knew that sometimes it would be so hot up there that we wouldn't want her to be up there, but we still wanted her, even if she was trapped in the van, to have somewhere she can look out and enjoy the windows. We also made custom signs. You could easily do this with just like paper and a Sharpie or whatever, and just like put it in your windows. But we were worried, we hear stories on the internet of someone who like busts out a window of a vehicle because they see a pet inside on a really hot day. And we were worried about that, or what people would think. And so we made signs for Pogi, our cat, that every time we stop at a store or in a parking lot or somewhere where people are going to be walking past the van, we have one sign in the driver window and one side in the passenger window, because we know she likes to sit up front a lot, that just tells people that she has all the amenities that she needs and that she's happy and things like that. So that's been really fun. And we also have her Instagram tag on there. We actually have had a person or two that like saw her in a random place and actually went and found her on Instagram and commented. And that's always really cool when people like pop in to say hi. And then finally, the biggest, most important adjustment we made in the van was air conditioning. My husband and I took lots of weekend trips in the van without our cat before we moved into the van full time. And on weekend trips, we would just leave her at home, but we didn't have air conditioning. When it was just me and him, we didn't really worry about it. Sometimes it would be really hot, but we would just have the windows open, and we had a fan, max air fan in the ceiling, and we had another fan that will blow on us when we're laying in the bed, and it might be kind of sticky, but we would just manage. But we knew with a cat in the vehicle, we actually needed air conditioning, because sometimes we will be in places where we can't control how hot the van gets, and or maybe we want to go on a hiking trip or go kayaking for the day or something where she can't go with us. And in those instances, she has to stay in the van. And so there's no way we would ever consider doing this trip without having an air conditioning unit so that she is safe. That's pretty much it for adjustments that we made to the van. So next I want to talk about how we choose our campsites, because having a cat that we want to allow to free roam does change what campsites we choose. We do pretty much 99% or more boondocking. So it's a lot of BLM lands and Forest Service campsites that are kind of dispersed camping. So for these areas, we try to choose campsites that are as far away from other people as we can, because our cat is a little bit scared by people. And also we're never sure if other people are going to have dogs. A lot of people leave their dogs off leash. We've had a few encounters where we've actually seen people who pull into a campsite near us and they have a dog that's off leash, and we say, hey, we have a cat, would you mind keeping your dog on leash? And they've actually said some nasty things to us before. So we just try to avoid other people as much as we can. Also, because we don't really trust our cat around vehicles too much, we try to choose sites that are as far off the road as possible. We have a good idea at this point of what her comfortable range is exploring around the van when she's free roaming, and we don't want her to be crossing any sort of roads while she's doing that. It's obviously not always possible to choose sites that are far away from other campers or far away from roads, but we are just extra cautious in those sorts of situations. And if we do happen to be in a campsite like that, we usually don't stay very long. We try to move on and find a place where she will be more comfortable and where we feel more safe with her in general. As far as hiking with our cat, we do hike with our cat quite a bit, but we almost never take her on hiking trails. Again, because of how fearful she is of other people and because of the threat of off-leash dogs, we just don't take her on hiking trails. But we stay in places like this all the time, and there's plenty of free roaming that us humans can do. And so my husband and I go on short walks or short hikes all the time, and she follows us. We started off, when we started doing these things, we would take her backpack with us in case she got too tired before we really knew what her limits were. She's actually followed us, I think, all the way up to a mile away from our campsite before, and on the walk back she got really tired and started laying on the ground and she was panting and things like that. So those are all signs of distress, obviously. And so when that sort of thing would happen, we would scoop her up and put her in the backpack and carry her the rest of the way. We also made sure we always have water for her if we go on these walks, and a little pop-up bowl to put it in. Cats obviously are really good at like short bursts of speed, but they're not endurance type animals like dogs are, so they can't go on very, very long hikes or walks. And she's never been the type of cat that would like ride on our shoulders or anything like that. So now that we know her limits, we just know if we're planning to go on a short hike or walk, then she comes with us. And if we're going on a long hike or walk, we leave her in the van with all of her creature comforts. But we try to take her on a walk at least once a day, and she really enjoys that. And then she gets to free roam most of the rest of the day unless we have an activity planned, like we're going on a bike ride or going kayaking or something like that. And of course, Churu is the ultimate secret to helping train your cat or rewarding your cat for doing something great. This is just like the name brand. You can get plenty of off-brand ones, but if you've never heard of Churu, I've never seen a cat that doesn't go nuts over these things. They come in a ton of different flavors. It's basically like a meat Go-Gurt for cats, and they freaking love it. She loves these things. This is how we reward her most days when she comes back from a walk. You know, we didn't know at first that she would be the type of cat that would follow us on walks, because that wasn't something that she would do when we were living in the city, doing walks in our neighborhood. But out here, away from people, away from cars, away from dogs, she does it all the time and she loves it. Some things I think you're just not gonna know about your cat until you take the plunge. And not every cat is gonna react the same way. You know, we have a friend that has a cat that loves to swim, and she takes it kayaking with her, and I'm so jealous. Me and my husband are definitely water sports people, and I would love to be able to have our cat do that kind of stuff with us, but we have introduced her to water multiple times and it's never gone well. So she's just not a water cat, and that's okay. So, you know, some things you're just gonna have to discover for yourself, because your cat isn't gonna do everything the way that you think they will. So I think that's pretty much everything that I could think of to talk about in this video. We've talked about how to prep your cat, how to prep your van, all the accessories, how to deal with emergency medical situations, dangers to look out for, how to choose a campsite, all of that kind of stuff. So that's how we van life with our cat. I hope that if you're thinking about van lifing with your cat, that you take the plunge. I think cats really are a lot more resilient and enjoy this lifestyle a lot more than people give them credit for, and I think people have just not given them the chance. So that's all I wanted to share. Again, if you have any questions about anything that I talked about, or anything that you're curious about that I didn't mention, please feel free to comment below and I will answer your questions as best I can. Thanks so much for tuning in. If this video was helpful for you, please hit the like button. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, and be kind, take care, and I'll see you again soon with another video. Bye.